Joining me on this episode of the Neil Wilkins podcast, I am delighted to welcome Emanuel Rose. Now, Emanuel's got a wealth of experience on the topic that we are going to go deep into today, which is about preserving authentic marketing in the age of AI. Now, this is something I think all of us are tussling with, whether we own a business, whether we represent a brand. Anything commercial right now is being impacted by AI. So there's some really important decisions, both strategically and tactically, that we need to make. So Emanuel and I are going to talk about these things and hopefully whet your appetite in terms of opportunities, but also maybe identify some of the potential pitfalls in this area that has no playbook. So there's going to be some exciting challenges ahead. So welcome to the podcast, Emanuel.
Thank you so much, Neil. I'm really looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, me too. And I think, when we first kind of got introduced, I thought, this is going to go deep. I know this is going to go deep. I just sense it and feel it, and the time is right. So, yeah, looking forward to this myself. Can I start with something that I have just seen in the media, which plays right into the heart of this? I was looking on the imaginative.com website, which is one of the many sources of information that I use to kind of keep abreast of all this stuff, emerging in AI and machine learning. And this one news article, which I just can't stop thinking about now I've seen it, which was reporting on Hey Gen, the video platform that has now got a capability for you to create your own avatar that looks like you, sounds like you, behaves like you, thinks like you, and importantly now can represent you simultaneously in, it claims, thousands of Zoom meetings all at the same time. Now, come on. This sounds like an absolute dream for those of us whose diaries are really stretched, but it's an absolute nightmare at the same time, isn't it?
It is, and we're reaching that inflection point that much quicker than I thought. But where we're going to decide when do I deploy this? Do I deploy things like this? And then how do I deploy it? And in what part of the sales and marketing funnel do I deploy it, right? And so it's very obvious we're going to have bots talking to bots to set up meetings for humans to bots and humans to humans. That is inescapable at this point. But the question always is the ethical question, and the theoretical question is how do I best do business, and what are my goals? And so that's how it's going to be gated, I think.
It feels like a good filter, though, doesn't it? Because there's something, as you say, about the kind of authenticity in this. And, I know you spend a lot of time kind of, working and tussling with this with clients and, in your writing and on all of the work that you do. It is a big challenge, though, isn't it? Because on the one hand, we've got this huge potential scalability opportunity where we can go from almost zero to, well, infinite, really, just by pressing a single button. But at the same time, we have to protect I feel we have to protect the nuances of being human, because otherwise, if it just all becomes machines talking to machines, that's not us. And that's actually not us and our brand and our business and our products and services, is it?
No, and as small business entrepreneurs or small business managers or CEOs, the humanness is what differentiates us in the marketplace. Who I am, what football team I follow, what nonprofit organizations I support in my community, what kind of dog I have, how many children, and what school I went to, and why I believe what I believe. Those are the things that create the connection. We do business with people we know, like, and trust, and you can't compete with Walmart on prices when you're a small town retailer. You have to compete on personality and connection, and I think that there's an allure that is sometimes sold especially in the marketing realm, that we're going to get all this leverage, we're going to get all this massive reach, and magically the money just flows into the bank account because I'm using this piece of software. Well, you and I are both old enough to know and have experienced that is all a bunch of horse feathers, and that what happens is that you meet people, you talk to people, you trust people, you spend time with people, and those people are either your clients or referring you to clients, and that it's the human connection and us doing work that makes our life valuable. If everybody just had $1 billion in their bank account, we would it would just look like a frat party at 7 days a week and a very unhappy group of people. Our job is to create things and to be connected to people and make other people's lives more valuable. Just letting the machines do it is not going to solve that equation.
Do you think then that we're kind of almost redefining success then in what you're saying? Because, I think for a lot of people, when you say to them, what is your purpose in business? Well, it's to make money, it's to get more customers, it's to grow. There's this kind of financial drive, whereas actually there could be almost a new definition of success, which is, well, one, I want to be happy. Two, I want to be making enough, and enough could be a significant amount. It could be
Sure.
doing good. It could be, a whole kind of load of philanthropic things where you're actually giving back a lot and investing, in the right kinds of things. But it isn't just kind of growth for the sake of growth, is it? Because it's almost then that becomes this huge, great monster that you're creating that is almost becomes, unmanageable, doesn't it? If we get it wrong.
Yeah, so I think we see it generationally where the millennials are really committed to lifestyle, right? And that was always kind of the rap on the millennials as they were first coming into the marketplace, at least in the United States, where it's like, well, they don't want to work on Fridays, they don't want to wear a tie, they want to have a vacation to go to Burning Man, yada yada yada, all this stuff. So yeah, I think we're in a place, at least in the Western cultures, that we have the opportunity to make that decision of how much is enough. And of course, we all need money to float around in the cultures that we're part of, but the experiencing life as we live versus waiting until we're 65 and retired to experience it, we can choose that now, right? Like I have Starlink. I work from wherever I want to work from and still able to take care of the obligations that I have in the business sector and also have the lifestyle that I want. I don't think I'm special or unique because of that. Everybody has access to these tools. It is a philosophical or a goals-oriented process to figure out how to do that.
Mm. Yeah, and I think that's the important element, I think, here, isn't it, really? I mean, we're talking about authenticity. I mean, it's the key kind of theme here, the thread that's going through this conversation. And I think it's almost, if I kind of reflect back on kind of my journey, which is always kind of, I guess, well, certainly for the last decade or so, has talked about, this phrase, mindful marketing. I
Mhm.
don't want to just be encouraging consumption and consumerism and all those kinds of things. I want to be doing the right kind of marketing. Like you say, Manuel, it's not because, well, aren't I a great person, but it just feels right. It just feels that's a responsibility that I have, not just to be purely making money. Yes, we need to, pay the bills, pay the mortgage, etc. But it is also about kind of almost doing the right thing. There's this responsibility on maybe us as kind of almost like business leaders in our sectors or influencers at a micro level to be doing the right kind of, or setting the right kind of example. It is kind of, it's almost down to us in all individually, isn't it, to kind of almost create that momentum and that tide of doing the right thing.
Yeah, I guess kind of follow the marketplace drift, which is that the millennials and the Z's are really committed to experiences and participating in life on a daily and weekly basis versus a lot of massively deferred gratification, right? So that being said, we all have that opportunity to participate at that level as we can figure out how, in the roles that we have, with the objectives that we have, to make that happen. Um, and to be a little more philosophical about it, because we're in a different spot than we were in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, right after World War II, and having to survive and rebuild cultures, and we're we're not in that, at least in the places where you and I live, right?
Mm. Yeah, and I think that makes a big difference, doesn't it? I mean, we're kind of coming at this from, we've both got, lifestyles that we enjoy, we've crafted, and it's taken, probably a few more years than we might have liked. We'd have probably liked this back on day one, but it almost kind of, yeah, it's required because of the generations that we're coming from here. It's required a little bit more, maybe a little bit more effort to kind of be able to
Yeah.
live that more kind of flexible millennial Gen Z kind of lifestyle, even though we're obviously a little more mature than that in terms of age, but we got there in the end. We kind of figured it out. So I mean, just to kind of maintain that, then I'm going to sort of play the card that says, hey, but AI is okay because it can support that. I mean, what is then wrong? Again, it's a rhetorical question. I'm not pointing this directly at you, but it's
Sure.
an interesting one, isn't it? That says, okay, well, if you want to lead these lifestyles, then guys, why don't you use me? I'm talking as AI here. If you know, because I'm here to support you. I'm here to kind of either attend that meeting that you don't want to be because you want to be out on the trails doing what you do or whatever it is. So what's wrong with that? Because, you know, I can think like you, I can look like you, I can behave like you. And as long as I declare that I'm not you, I'm an avatar of you, can't I just, because it's not a particularly important meeting or it's not a particularly important event, but I'm just going to be going along there just to kind of almost take notes. So maybe it's a webinar or something that I'm going to attend on your behalf. So you can be out, you know, having fun and living your life, but I'm going to be there kind of on your behalf. And I'll report back. I'll give you a little summary as your avatar, give you a little summary when you get back of kind of what happened, some of the highlights. Now, to me, that could be a useful way of using AI when my physical human presence doesn't necessarily need to be there. Is that kind of okay?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a scalpel, and the decision tree that you're going down is a scalpel, right? I say, yeah, if it's about attending meetings and maybe webinars, yeah, I got no issue with that. I think if you're talking in a brand building activity, where you are on the path to talking to an ideal client, ideal client profile, where you need to learn and be engaged, then I don't accept the premise yet that AI can think like me. I've got my books plugged in, and I reference my books and all these written materials that I've produced. Anytime I ask a question to a GPT, say, referencing these books, please produce six LinkedIn blog posts or six LinkedIn posts, something like that. Does it think like I do? Has it experienced the last 5 weeks of seeing fall change from fall to winter, and best friend passing away, and whatever the things are in my life that are factors? No, it can't. It's not sentient. So I think it would be immature to say that it's a direct representative of myself. Number one. Number two, I'm missing out on certain interactions with the other humans at a point that I log, just like you do. You sit down on a Zoom call, or you sit down in a restaurant, you watch mannerisms, you see how they treat the waiter, you see the dog they have, whatever these cues are that are important about how we manage our relationships. And the avatar is not sentient enough to do that at this point. So I say it's a scalpel, and you have to use it as such, but as a direct replacement, not happening.
Do you think in terms of, say, customer service, and I totally get what you're saying about, building that relationship, particularly B2B. I think there is something about that depth of relationship and really understanding human to human what's going on to see whether you want to actually do business there. But maybe in a B2C environment where it is maybe a bit more transactional, it may be just that I'm just going to buy your product one time only. We're not looking at a deep kind of relationship here, but I might need some post-sales support there because I might need to set the product up, or I just might need to know a little bit of background once I've made that purchase. Do you see that there's some level of authenticity to say, okay, as a brand, the after sales support is going to be automated. It is going to be an avatar that's going to look after it. It knows everything about the product, so you can get a really efficient kind of service. And we're not kind of dressing it up in terms of it being almost a replacement for a human, but it's just a super efficient way of you, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, getting the answer you need. Do you think that kind of feels wholesome enough? Is that okay to do that?
Yeah, I think I love it, and I think right now our aftermarket customer service is YouTube, at least in the States, right? Like if like I had a buddy, he had a brand new tent, he didn't know how to set it up. He couldn't go to Cabela's and ask somebody. He went to YouTube and found some videos of the unboxing and how to set this up and do this and do that. The questions he had. So I think it's in that respect, if the FAQs and the setup and the deployment and how to use it and all those things are thorough and well thought out from the customer's perspective, then I applaud that, because you actually are caring about the person that you're doing business with, and you're saying, "Hey, I'm Jenny, the avatar, and I'm going to do what I can to get you satisfied with whatever your situation is. And if I can't help you, then I'll plug you into somebody who can." I think that's the track that is missing in a lot of direct consumer support right now.
Mm. Yeah, and I think it is, isn't it? I mean, it's one of those things because there is this inherent, and I'll use the word carefully, but there's this inherent almost perfection about how you can train, an avatar. Let's just call them an avatar, but an
Sure.
AI to understand either if it's a book or if it's the product technical specification or whatever. It's almost it can't unlearn what it already knows. It's going to do it down to the level of a period, decimal point, whatever it is. It's just going to know absolutely everything, whereas a human is flawed. So therefore, you can actually train that perfection in the service. So there's almost like, as part of a brand confidence, there's a real upside, isn't there?
There certainly can be, as long as there's the correct care and feeding, and that however the tech guys can eliminate the hallucinations, so that the GPT's not making stuff up, so that people are getting good information. So we're still in that learning phase, all of us, how to use it, how to deploy it, how to code it, how to manage it as this kind of junior level new hire, if you will.
Mm. Yeah, and do you think that's where it's going to be really for the foreseeable future? Because I mean, you said right at the outset, it's moving really, really fast, and of course it is. I mean, this whole space, we would not have been really having this conversation, say, a year ago, because over the last 12 months, I mean, I know we've had this for some time now, but the acceleration of this is incredible, and yet people are still kind of grasping at this thing, which seems to be, I guess, a lot of people feeling like it's passing them by, but it isn't, because just everyone's figuring it out, you and I included, as we go.
Indeed.
But
Yeah.
but do you think it's going to be like at this junior level that you described there? Because it doesn't feel, if it doesn't have sentience and intuition and be able to really kind of think outside of its own box, it is going to be very much at a processing kind of very junior basic level to begin with, isn't it? Just by its definition, really.
Yeah, I think so. I don't. I think what is critical in using any of these tools right now is continue to train it down a specific track, a very finite activity, like you're talking about. It could be setting up your product when you get it home, and then build out that interaction so that it is bulletproof, and that it's learning your staff are referencing the correct materials and inputting new FAQs as they come up through live chat or through conversations, but keeping it in a very defined space and learning very finite things. If you're going to use it that way, the magic of it is that it could take 3 days worth of strategic planning and give you a summary of the top 10 things to do in 5 minutes. So that's a very easy use case. Or in marketing, I love to use it as a generative source for ideas for content calendar and social media posts, and generate ideas on every topic. 10 ideas or 15 ideas, and it's often coming up with things that I would not have thought of or had forgotten to think of, because we used to do it, but we don't do it anymore. So, I think it's important to see where the leverage is, and then how to get the leverage, and um, keep it on track for the objectives that you have.
So sort of building on that thing about kind of communications then. So we talked a little bit about kind of automation and kind of scaling and customer support. Well, what about kind of, in the marketing comms side of things, where we potentially hear, a lot of us have obviously used it to test out, maybe do a first draft of the next blog, or as you say, content scheduling with our calendar for socials, etc. Are you seeing any really good sort of use cases here for, brands or organizations or clients that you might have worked with who are kind of really making a difference? It's not just replacing maybe somebody's activity or just doing it quicker. They're actually extending the boundaries of what was possible before. Because I guess that is ultimately where we're trying to take this. It's kind of to extend what has been possible or limited, I guess, by us as humans. It's because we do tend to get on that hamster wheel of just, we found a process, right, we'll just continue to do the same thing, and it just goes on and on and on. So there is this opportunity, I guess, of AI pushing us beyond, like you say, with an answer or an idea that, I wouldn't have come up with that. Are you seeing kind of brands playing that out and actually doing things differently as a result of AI now?
Well, the high functioning brands definitely are using what we say, this process that is AI first, keeping humans in the loop, testing and iterating, and then reviewing KPIs, and then going in that process continually. So I haven't found tools yet that are running autonomously without humans in the loop. So that, I think we're not that far. I think we could be 12 months from there on certain things like LinkedIn DMing, where you're actually crawling the posts, likes, and interests of the person who you want to talk to. Like that, that we're very close on that. There's some very nice tools with that. The pay-per-click in the social platforms, very close to just being able to bringing in a list of people who have searched for a search term, building a lookalike audience, generating ads, and having that be an autonomous thing, sending people to a landing page or an offer. Not quite there, but close.
This is really curious and quite fascinating for me. So I think, because what you're kind of saying there, I think, if I've got this right, is that the real kind of impetus here is coming almost from the capability of the research or gathering of the insights here, rather than, I guess, as most of us kind of feel, it's like, it's all about publishing, it's all about writing the content, putting the next image out there. Because I mean, things like Grok now, X or Twitter as was, I mean, some of the quality of the imagery there is just incredible. So maybe a lot of us, me included, have just got a little bit carried away by the production of the output, rather than what you're saying there, which is really interesting, is that it can do the background research to guide us in what we should be doing. And that's possibly where the power needs to come from. I'd not really kind of thought of it in that way. I know things like Perplexity, can do a huge amount of deep dive in terms of, market sectors, trending topics and the like. But it sounds as though actually what we should be doing is thinking about strategically how we can use it to uncover opportunities. Maybe there's little gaps in the market. Maybe, as you say, it's down to individual prospecting and targeting. That feels like a really, really good way. And that's pretty authentic, because all it's doing, I guess, is what a human would take 1,000 years to do, but it's doing it in a few moments.
Yeah, and so that's one of the workflows that I've built out in my agency, which is the person searching for something, email, then the APIs into the email program, and then it APIs into the pay-per-click program, and then we're working on building an intermediary step in there where we then go to LinkedIn on the B2B side, go to LinkedIn, get their information, build a customized industry report about trends, email that, and build a dynamic landing page for them, and then circle them in with ads. So, these things are all capable because of the great APIs and the processes to connect the softwares together. And then each of these individual softwares has got capabilities that the dials still have to be turned, and you still have to manage it, but it is doing 78% of the heavy lifting And like you said, it used to take ages to do all these things, and it had to be done essentially by hand.
Mm. Yeah, because I had Sam Drawshak actually on the podcast a few months back, and he's a huge advocate of what we call process mapping. And I know
Right.
if you're a regular listener to the podcast, you'll know that I've been banging on about this whole process mapping thing for quite some time. That feels,
Mhm.
Emmanuel, that is you're kind of an advocate of this as well, because if you don't know your processes, you might just be spotting almost like a little nugget of gold on the coal face, and yet you're not seeing that thread or that kind of real stream of gold behind it unless you actually plot the process out. Is it kind of going to require us all to very much think about our strategic processes of actually how we go to market, the process of serving a customer, the customer journey, the marketing funnel? It
Yeah.
feels like what you're saying is that until we know that, it's really hard to understand how AI is going to play into this.
Yeah, I would just flip it a little bit, and I say, as you map this, then you can look for tools that can help you to get leverage in each of those phases, right? And I mean, there's so much content out there now, Neil, and I know you're seeing this too, where we've got 1,000 times more content now than we did 18 months ago. And so content curation and subject matter expertise to curate accurate and vetted content is a role that we need all the guys like you and I, all the people like us, to take an active role in and say, these are the sources. These are the places where you go. This is so that we can start to draw some trails to the good content and keep our people we care about, our clients and prospects and family and friends, out of the morass and the deep BS, because it is deep and getting deeper every second.
Mm. Yeah, and I think that again, it comes back to this responsibility or authenticity. It's just I see we're seeing this kind of playing out. Whichever angle we take this, whichever little stream we go down here, it feels like there is just this real consistent message that you've got to be mindful, you've got to be authentic, you've got to be doing it for the right kind of reasons. Again, it's responsibility and accountability. Just seems to, whichever way we look at this, it seems to kind of come round to that. I mean, it was interesting because yesterday I mentioned perplexity earlier. I was
Yeah.
using I was doing an article for a client, and I thought, I need to. I've got this research that I've done. I thought I need to fact check this, and normally that would be like a manual process. And I thought, no, Perplexity, you can do a fact check, can't you? And
Yeah.
honestly, the quality of it was incredible. It came back with, okay, well, here's almost a rating of accuracy for each of the points that I'd made, and it was like, here's the reference sources that I've used, and it was,
Yep.
wow, that would have taken me probably a good hour or so to actually just click the links and read through. And yet, of course, it does it in a matter of seconds. So it's almost like we can use the AIs to kind of do this authenticity check as well. So it's almost like they're part of the team now, aren't they?
Yeah. I think so. And like I said, AI first, human in the loop, and that we really have to take this perspective, because perplexity. I'm with you. I love it. I think it's a great tool. It still comes back with hallucinations that are unbelievable to me. Like I use for my podcast, I use it to review the LinkedIn profile, their website, build an introduction, and the first 6 questions. And invariably it adds strange companies to the CV that the person has not worked at. And even though I have the reference, the LinkedIn link there. So I love it. It's still only about a B plus player, right? Like I can't trust it entirely. So I think that's important that we keep in mind right now in this time that we have to manage it just like a junior associate.
And again, there's almost, I guess, words of comfort for a lot of people who have said or worried about, it's coming for my job. The robots are going to take over, and I think, we've kind of said this in a number of different ways in this conversation, that actually that's probably pretty unlikely, certainly in the foreseeable future, to happen. So it's still that we're in charge. We can be the filter, we can be the sense check, but we're using it, as you say, as part of the team. It comes up with this, maybe some ideas for us to test. We can then send it off to do some deeper research or some work. It'll feedback, but ultimately the final decision on the posts that are going out, the draft that we're going to publish, the decisions we're making for the business, all of those things, that's the human, isn't it? It's kind of, we're in charge, but these are our, and somebody described this to me, some time back, as our over caffeinated interns. So, super excited and really quite wired, but pretty clueless, if we're being honest. And I just loved that, because I thought, yeah, that's it, isn't it? That again gives us hope that we are still able to hold the reins and kind of guide this how it goes.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. I like that. Hold the reins and guide it. And I just encourage people to get one of the tools into their daily workflow and use it on a consistent basis to help write email headlines or email correspondence that you've been putting off because it's awkward, or something, a creative thing that you've been too burnt out to get onto and need some help using, and use it as a sounding board and as a generative part of your process, because in 5 years it will be a critical part for every professional to be able to use these tools, because it's once it's in the fabric of business, because of the leverage and the time savings, we're all going to be we're going to have to use it because it's the market standard.
Absolutely. I want to get people connected with you, Emanuel, because obviously you and I, it's not a physical location thing. So anybody, anywhere in the world can get the wisdom and the guidance and the experience of Emanuel Rose. So how do they kind of contact you to get more information or to go deeper into this conversation with you?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for asking. The best way is to go on LinkedIn, find me, Emanuel Rose, or to go Google Emanuel Rose. That'll be at least the first couple on that, or just go straight to EmanuelRose.com.
Wonderful. Yeah. And I just have a feeling that a lot of the things you're saying are going to resonate and give confidence to the people listening here, because I think that's what it is, isn't it? Really, ultimately, what we're looking to do here is get confidence. Don't get overconfident, and just know that, these tools here and these platforms are here really to support us. Could I ask you one final question, just to kind of let people almost kind of take the next step? If in, say, 12 months' time, we were to be having this conversation again, where do you think we will be let's just say, as a commercial kind of industry in either marketing, communications, business ownership? Where do you think we'll be with regard to AI?
I think it will be, number one, it's going to be built in or baked into every piece of software we use. And so there will be things that we'll need to learn about in our project management system and our ERP systems, in email marketing programs, that we're going to have to learn about how to use it and manage it inside those types of software. And then that we're going to have 6 or 8 in a dashboard that we're using on a daily basis in order to help facilitate the business that we do, without a doubt. And I think that's why it's important to understand prompt writing and to start understanding how to ask questions, how to frame questions, how to ask responses, and to get the material that you need out of it the first or second time, versus having to have a long, drawn out conversation with a bunch of garbage in, garbage out. And that's really the starting place.
And as a final little parting gift, I understand you might have something to share with those who are listening.
Yeah, absolutely. So on EmanuelRose.com, There is a free PDF download that is about prompt writing, and kind of the secrets of prompt writing, and it's on its second iteration, and it's one that I continue to update because of the dynamic nature of the generative space. So EmanuelRose.com, and there's a drop down there for free ebook on prompt writing.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It's been great conversation. I think, we've explored and gone, wide and deep and far and short. And yeah, it's just, there's so much to kind of, consume and think about here, isn't there? So it's just been really great to kind of, with a like-minded, soul, it's really, really good to kind of just share some of these ideas. So thank you so much for your time today.
Well, I've really appreciated the conversation, Neil, and thanks for the work that you're doing to help marketers do better marketing.
We do our best, don't we? That's great. Thanks, Emanuel.
Thank you.